So the trade deadline is a little over a month away, and it is time for our first annual trade deadline previews for each team. Basically, what I'm going to do is go over every team's record this season, discuss whether or not they're buyers or sellers, look at their UFAs and RFAs, and basically talk about what their trade deadline is going to look like. We're starting off today in alphabetical order, of course, with the Anaheim Ducks. They're obviously not a good team this year, so this should be a relatively quick video. Currently, the Anaheim Ducks stand at 30th in the NHL with a 16, 29, and 5 record for 37 points. They have scored 125 goals and have let in 205. Now that's important. They have $13.9 million in cap space, which a lot of that could be going to their free agents that they have this offseason. We're going to start off with the RFAs because there's actually some big names there that will get signed to hefty contracts. Starting off with Max Comtois. Obviously, Comtois hasn't been the player that he was, had potential to be, and that he hasn't been since probably like 2021 with the weird divisions. Then you have Troy Terry as well, who has popped it off the past 2 seasons. So I would definitely expect for him to get a pretty solid contract. Then you also have Max Jones, who could prove interesting there. Trevor Zegras, who definitely will prove interesting and could get a very hefty contract. And then you also have Simon Benoit as well. When I look at those RFAs, I don't see really anybody that I would be like, oh yeah, they should definitely trade them 100%. Maybe Max Jones or Benoit, but those players might just not get qualified and walk. Now on the UFA side, however, there actually is some pretty interesting names. Starting off with Jason Magna, Kevin Shattenkirk, John Klingberg. Those two, Klingberg and Shattenkirk, could prove to be very interesting moves at the trade deadline. Obviously, when we talked about Klingberg getting signed back in the offseason, I said that he could become a pretty solid trade deadline acquisition if the Anaheim Ducks are out of a playoff spot, and look at that, they are. However, it could be because the Ducks are just absolutely terrible, or John Klingberg was kind of overrated by a lot of people, but this year, his stats are in the toilet. They are not good stats whatsoever. I think he's really bad analytically too, so that could prove very interesting there. But Kevin Shattenkirk is one player, one defender that I think could definitely get traded for Anaheim. When you look at these other names that you have here, you have Nathan Beaulieu, Dmitry Kulikov, Anthony Stolarz, John Moore, and Derek Grant as well. Now, Derek Grant likely going to sign another 1-year deal with Anaheim. It feels like he's been with the Ducks for forever. John Moore probably might walk, might not. Anthony Stolarz, though, is like the only name that I could see could prove pretty interesting depending on what team trades for him, because he has proved in Anaheim that he can be a pretty solid backup. I can't think of any teams off the top of my head, but if there's a team that is kind of looking for a backup goaltender, there isn't many at that. Maybe Stolarz could prove a good idea. Now moving on to the question of whether or not they are buyers or sellers, I think it should be pretty obvious what the Anaheim Ducks are going to be, and that's sellers. I mean, honestly, this team is in yet again another year of this rebuild and not playing very well, and they definitely have some assets to move as some of these guys are expiring, so I imagine they will 100% make a pretty decent move with a team like we saw last year with Josh Manson. And they could actually get a pretty good haul in a stacked draft for some of these players. Obviously, this year, they only have 1 first-round pick. They actually have 3 second-round picks. They have 2 third-round picks, 1 fourth, 1 fifth, 1 sixth, and they traded their 7th away. Unfortunately, it is once again another year where the Ducks are going to be out of the playoffs, but hopefully with some of the moves that they make in this year's trade deadline, they could boost their hope for the next coming seasons. But anyways, that's really what all these videos are going to be. They're not going to be too long unless if we're talking about a big team. But really, when it comes to these videos, they're going to be short, sweet, and kind of just talking about their trade deadline and what it's going to look like. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. The next one will come very soon, and it will be the Arizona Coyotes. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.